So we're going to start now in Siman Yud Ches. Until now, the things that we've discussed in the Simanim coming up until here have been about the Shochet, the quality of a person who can become a Shochet, his behavior. Then we discussed the places of Shechita, we discussed the bracha of Shechita. We even actually discussed previously what a chalaf is allowed to be made out of. What is the materials for which a chalaf can be made? What is the length of the chalaf? But now we're going to get into the other pratim of the chalaf, and that is what we're looking for when we feel a chalaf. What makes a chalaf kosher or possible? What do we have to know in order to shtel a chalaf, to hone a knife that it should be a kosher chalaf, that it should be kosher for shechita? So that starts in Siman Yud Ches, Din Brikas Asakin Upkimaisov Uvoichav Dalet Sifim. So we're talking about the halachas of how to check a chalaf and what is considered a vegima. Sif Aleph. So actually in their version over here of the Simcha Hadasha, they bring down a Hagdom over here, which is made up by those who put this together, which is nice thing to go through it, but we're going to skip over that now. We're going to go straight to the halachas. Hashechet b'sakin sheyesh boy pagam. Somebody who shechts with a chalaf that has a blemish, harez in avela. That is considered an avela d'oiraisa. Okay, that's one of the 5 halachas of halacha which we Sinai, and then it goes into the category of ikur. And halacha which we Sinai, a sakin that has a blemish is considered to be an avela d'oiraisa. What, however, is a begima? What's considered a pagam? Shabagam ain't a shechet, and the reason for that is because a pagam does not shecht. Rak noikiv v'kareya. It punctures and it rips. Okay, therefore it goes into the category of ikar. V'lochein hamol lishchit tzarich livdek hasakin koidem hashchita. Somebody who wants to shecht must inspect their half before he shechts. Why? Shestam sakin ein v'cheskes yafa. Because take a kitchen knife out of your drawer and it does not have the chazaka that it's a kosher chalaf. Shabegimus mitzuis, but because it has in it pigimus. Interesting lashon over here. Shestam sakin ein v'cheskes yafing. Why? Shabegimus mitzuis, but so therefore I would maybe even say shestam sakin v'cheskes ein yafing. But okay. Gam asin lishre by b'loi b'dika al swap sheyev dikena achashchita. And it is also also you're not allowed to shech with it without checking it beforehand, on relying on the fact that later on, after the shechita, you'll check it. Why? Because maybe you'll forget to shech it and then to check it. And then you're going to end up eating an avela because it probably had a begima void. How can you make a bracha if it's a suffix, if it's going to be a kosher shechita? Shema sakin pokum ve'en kan shechita. Maybe the sakin has a bekima, therefore it's not considered a shechita. And if you recall, we learned that if somebody shechts an avela, okay, and he made a bracha, what should he do? He should try to go shecht another one. Why? Because he had a shash of a bracha l'matola. So here too, the same thing would apply, that since it's most likely going to be an avela, so how can you make a bracha on a suffix? And also you're not allowed to make a behema an avela, meaning treifa, if there is no good reason for it. The because that is over the Ve'er Baltash. So we have here 3 reasons of why one should not shecht without a bracha. Reason number 1, he might forget a shecht without checking the chalaf beforehand. Reason number 1 is because he may forget to check it. Reason number 2 is because how can you make a bracha from a suffix? And reason number 3 is you're not allowed to make an avela without good cause. Now here we come to an interesting point over here, because nowadays every shechet has chalofim, sakin that he puts aside, he protects them, is very careful with them. It's not like he said before, going to your kitchen sink and grabbing out a knife. Maybe at one time, it was like that, but nowadays a shechet has his sakin put away and protected. In Kozev, Afila Shechet, Sheyeshe Saki Miyucha, the Bodik, Umasnil Shchita, if the Shechet has a knife, which he puts aside, and it is checked, and he conceals it properly, protects it for Shchita, specifically for Shchita, Kamesh Boil Kabasif, that's right, we call Mokim Leishchit. Nevertheless, he should not, Shechelin, Kihim, Ayidei, Bdika, Kaidim, Salah, unless he checks it before and near the Shchita. Okay, meaning that if he checked the night before, he comes the next morning to shecht, he shouldn't just grab it out and shecht and lie when he checked the night before. Nevertheless, he should check it again. And definitely he should not rely on the bdika that he did on a shchita that he did a week ago, and before when he finished that shchita, he checked his half, then he put it away. No, he should not rely on that. But he should check it close to and before the shita. Because a chalef can become blemished quite easily. So therefore one should not rely on the protection that he gave by putting it into a proper case. Nevertheless, it seems to me, if it is a shasat chak, trying circumstances, what would that be? What would be an example of that? I guess maybe if the behemoth is ready, tied up, and they're holding it in place and they're want to shecht it, and you showed up a little late or something, maybe that's considered a shasaf chak. Maybe the animal looks like a mesukenes and it might die if you don't shecht it right away. I'm not sure what it means a shasaf chak, but so then he would be allowed to shecht it relying on the b'dika they made after, let's say, yesterday's shchita. But if it's just a regular knife that he picked up, that he does not have the chazakah, that at one time it was used for shechting and it was kosher, but it was never, however, with the eved, now, what happens if he did grab a knife out of the kitchen drawer and he shechted with it? If he did do that, even if it's a kitchen knife that he did not shecht it ever before, I never checked it before, he can check it after the shchita, and if he finds that it is good, so the shchita is kosher. In other words, this doesn't seem to be any type of exeda or any type of knas by the fact that he did not check it before. In other words, he checked it with a kosher half. It's a kosher shchita regardless of whether he checked it before or not. Let's go now back to page 12 on the Mate Osher. Pagam. Okay. One is not allowed to shecht with a pagam, a pagima, a blemish, even if he's doing it for a goy, English of a he should not shecht with a blemish chalaf. Even if he does not know, he's shecht for a goy now. And he's not sure that it was nifgan. Maybe it was a good half, maybe it was. He didn't check it, so therefore he doesn't know this way or that way. We're not saying for sure. Yes, nevertheless, he should not check with it until he checks it. Pekima is Aisius Magefa, Mugamachia, Chometz, Machometz Vashu, Af Begima Vashu, Uxindle Shishat al Chometz. Okay? So here we have some sort of an emes to the concept of Pegima. Okay, so let's go now to Piske, Rabbi Seinu, number 1 on the bottom of page 12. Rabbi Seinu Poiskim, Lemaise, Shabbat Hashnifsel, Beglal, Shchita, Besaka Pogim, Nidin Lechumra, Hein Kinevera, Hein Kitrefa. Okay, this is something which it's highly unlikely that which should become an issue, but the question is, if you shecht from chal which has a pgima, is it a geda of trefa or is it a geda of nevela? He can say to you, what's the difference? You can't eat them both. So he brings you a couple of possibilities where it can make a difference between whether it's a nevela or trefa. The marshal, Todd kisidam v'asalish lacharaz mnoy. If what happens doesn't need a kisidam, so if it's a trefa, would it need kisidam or not, or nevela would it need kisidam or not? If also listed aharas mnoy, again, if it is an avela, question is, you're not allowed to shecht a mother and the child, or the other way around even, if it is on the same day. However, if it is not, again, I'm embarrassed to say that I'm not sure which way it goes, whether if it's an avela, you still have these two dinner apply, or whether it's a treifa where they have two dinner apply. Either way, it applies in one case, does not apply in the other case. And therefore, even a sakin which is not a boduk, it gets included in this gather. But that would be in case of it would still be considered a suffix nevela or a suffix treifa or a suffix of both. I think another nafkamila alocha, whether it is a nevela or a treifa, is, let's say somebody made himself a neder. I'm not going to have enough from many nevelas. So if it's in the gather of treifa, so he would be allowed to have enough from it. Or the other way around, if he says, I want to have enough from a treifa. So again, if it's a nevela, he would be allowed to have enough from it. So there is a possibility that we have to know if it goes into the gather of nevela, gather of treifa. Anyway, so what bottom line is, you take both chubas of side nevela, side treifa. Okay. Number 2, Milsa de Hasidusa, again from Piskei Rabbeinu said Nisienu, Milsa Hapegima Oisius Pogam Yud K. Okay, makes a blemish in the Shem Hashem. Vima Keves Shchita, Shachat Shchita. Shchita is Shachat Yud K. And this does not allow that it should be the Shachat Yud K, Ki Agavonu Yilishchet HaKone, HaVeshet, HaVrid, because the Kavonu is that you should shecht, side the corner, side the Veshet, side the Vridim, Shehem Gimel, Sarei. I am not going to translate this. I'm not going to explain this. This is beyond my capabilities, but we will read it anyway. This one is quite easy to understand. Begima is Magefa. Magefa is a epidemic. After Osid Love, Kishruch to Vabmenorts, Tutsar, Shitas Shur Habor, Besafir Habmyoson. Okay, again, if you want to go check that out, there's a mimer, I think, a Pasha Shmini Kotatera, which talks about this Shitas Shur Habor, Besafir Love living Yosin. Okay, Siv Gimel on top of page 16. Siv Beis, I'm sorry, top page 16. Now we get into an issue like this. We know that a Pegima makes a Chalaf Basel. The question is, what's a Pegima? Has to tell us, has to define what a Pegima is. Shir ha-Pegima is Kol Shu. A shir of a Pegima is anything. Minus amount. Bein ba'amka, bein b'mishcha. Sai in its depth, sai in its length. Meaning, whether the blade, this way, okay, this is the blade, this is how they're cutting edges over here. Whether it is talking about from here to here, a certain distance, or from here to here going down. Either way, whatever the ba'amka, b'mishcha, the slightest amount, is considered a pegima. Now, we got to figure out this lashon over here. But there is one condition that has to be able to hold or to block a small thing. Even if it is the size of potasayra. So is it a kolshu, or does it have to have a shir of the chotasayra? We're going to leave that aside. Just mentioning it. Even though he checked it on his flesh and his nail, and we learned that we don't, or we're going to learn that we don't do that, and we only do it al bisra. And he does not feel any type of a click, any type of a ikuv, any type of a block, any type of a holding on to him, any. But afterwards he checked the chalaf through the sun. And here's something that I want to really, really emphasize. I don't think this could be overemphasized. I'm going to get down to it later also in the smach. That's something I want to get to because I want to emphasize. Meaning that he looked at the edge of the blade of the chalaf and he saw that there's an imperfection over there. He sees a begima. He should check over there in the chotasayra. I don't think I've seen once somebody do it, but We don't do that. It's not something which is commonly done. Checking with the Chut HaSayra. And if it is able to fit into that place where he sees the blemishes, he should not check with it. And if he did check, so then it's out there. Now, so now on page 18, continuing in the Smach literally. Here we're talking about, let's go through the whole thing over here, that there's a crack in the chalv. We're talking about something which is extremely minute, okay? The depth of it is a Chut HaSayra. However, the Chut HaSayra, that hair, will not, or that strand will not enter into that crack that's there. Because there is no vacuum over there. There's nothing missing. Nothing from the blade is missing over there. It's just split. And the two corners of this part, okay, here's the whole blade. This is the whole blade. And right over here, okay, where it's coming together, there is a split. Now, of course, my fingers, you can see, obviously, it goes together. But if you were to have two things that are absolutely straight coming together, there will be no space at all between them. And even a Chut HaSayra will not fit between them because the two corners of those two things come together very tightly. However, okay, but the two corners of the blade are right next to each other, right up to each other, and therefore nothing can get in over there. And therefore, when you make a b'dika with your fingernail, okay, you will not sense it at all. However, since he's using, there is pressure when you are shachting, and therefore that pressure might cause the blade to open up just a minutest fraction. But surafing the evidence, then you will have a full-fledged pegima during the act of shchita. V'bein pegam kin kamayim. Tell him v'ukitz yoytze michud kolshu mistap away of hilukut asayda poshet davle. However, what about this is the opposite situation, where on the edge there's an additional piece that doesn't belong over there, the tiniest of tiny things. And that can be very common, but you feel it. So in other words, whether it's a blemish which goes into the blade or it's something which is additional on top of the blade, either way, that is considered a pagam and it is problematic. So let's go back to what I wanted to emphasize. I'm going to go through a little bit of bays. We'll see how far we get over there. And I want to really emphasize on Gimel in the Mate Usher. I'm sorry, Mate Usher, bottom of page 16, base, okay? Mate Usher base. Shir up Gimel. Yeshatay b'divin abenu. Okay, Demach, Shekosim Shiru B'cholshu, Kfar Kara Pigima. After already, the Simcha Hadasha tells us that a shir is what? What's the shir? Kolshu, whatever it might be. Kfar Kara Pigima already give it the category of Pigima and Kain. Eich Yutztak Achakachat Nagavat. So how can we not give it a condition to say, no, it has to be the size of a Chut HaSayra? Can you make any sort of differentiation? The kolshu that is this size, kolshu that side. So why did he say straight out that the size of a shear is that something has to be able to caught into it? Now saying it's kolshu, but on the condition that something can get caught into it. So then it's not a kolshu, like we mentioned when we learned it inside. So Bishleima, Divrei HaMachab B'Shulchan Aruch Beis, the Hachgam in Lashon Azeh Yesh Lefar Shalpi Divrei Tuz Shach, the Eis Mechal Shul Afil Nimsai Dei Shav B'Dikas Kabashi Shav Shim Shavai Kadema. So if you want to say that, according to Chabu, explain later Taz in the Shach, that it means that even if something which you don't feel, but it's something you see in the light, you see in the sun, or with water, and then it makes sense because it's called shul. And therefore, b'dika does not in any way is not even necessary. You don't even need anything. Therefore, according to that category of a pagam, that is something which you see, which you visualize okay, then it doesn't matter how big it is, even if something it does not get caught on it, is considered. You don't have to check for that. You don't necessarily have to check in the sun. Okay, I want to stop over here. And I'm going to move along to Gimel, because I think Gimel is something which is really relevant. Okay, Gimel in the Mati Asher, bottom of page 16. Ein tzarech. Okay. Ein tzarech livdik with an iya. Okay. Ein tzarech. Now, the Anshe Maisa Medinas Poland Herziku Habidikazais. The Anshe Maisa from the country of Poland gave strong, established this bidika. Sha'acha Shinyivdugu Yud Beis Bidikas Kedina. After somebody makes the proper bidika, Yud Beis Bidikas according to the halacha, Abisr Vatuf on the flesh and on the nail. And let me interject right over here. We don't do it on the flesh. We do it just on the nail, but it's still Yud Beis Bidikas Kumavor. Botku b'madas ayin le'in Hashemis. He checked it with his eyes. He looked at it with using the sun. She shava, to make sure that it is complete. Shava means equal, that there's no problems, there's no issues, there's no pegimus, there's nothing on there. Kol chud hasakin, the whole edge of the sakin meration to say from the head, from beginning to end, b'li shum hefsik ba'il, without any type of a hefsik or pegima or a blemish. If there is something on the edge, even if it's like a white dot or a black one, it is not considered a proper, of a nice knife. So let me interject over here like this. Number one, there's no way to emphasize how important it is, the skill of knowing how to check a half through vision. You must be able to look at a knife and see if there are any problems. You're going to look at the side of the knife to see that it's straight. You're also going to look at the edge to see if there is what we call a weiskeit. Okay, it says over here, the idea is like this. When you look at a knife, you look at a chalaf, and you have the edge, okay, meaning the two studs of the chalaf come together, and they create this point, this edge, which this is going to be the cutting edge. So this edge should not be able to reflect any light. Why? It is so narrow that there's no room on it for it to reflect light. Okay, it's like non-existent. The true definition of point, like you learn geometry, point A, point B, is non-existent. The point is non-existent. And in this case, it should be so narrow, so perfect, that light should not reflect on it. So if you're holding a chalaf and you hold it up to the light or to the sun, you will see the tzad, which is the side of the honing, that bevel, and that will catch the light. And as you keep turning it away from the light, and this is something which has to be shown how to do it, and it takes practice to learn how to do it, it'll disappear. There will be no reflection on the blade. If there is, it is an imperfection in the blade. Simple as that. Now, sometimes you'll feel it, sometimes you won't feel it. Nevertheless, that's the fact. It's an imperfection. Okay? And he says over here, Loy mikra sakin yafa. It's not considered a nice chalaf. Does that mean it's not kosher? Lav dafka. But we're looking for perfection. A sheikh has to look for perfection. Okay? For a very simple reason. Let's get away from, you don't start with perfection, you're going to go downhill to, I don't want to say how far you go, but if you aim for perfection, you'll stay at perfection. If you think that there's leeway over there, you'll end up at a place where you don't want to go. So therefore, it is an extremely important skill, knowing how to look at a chalaf. It's important to know when you shtel a chalaf, when you start off with a chalaf, to know the progress that you make in the chalaf. Where are you headed over here? How much more do I have to go on this stone or that stone? When can I change from stone to stone? You got to use your eyes. Simple as that. Let's continue over here in the Mate Asher. Okay, ubade kumenusa sheyimse shav ezen akudet exas labnunis avabi shein zepkima, and it's bade kumenusa that if you find some sort of a whiteness, a weiskeit on the edge of the chalaf, avabi shein zepkima, even though it's not bekim, b'kamakim idea shchita through the shita bakal yuvkim b'kamahu. It is a weak spot. It's a problematic spot. Okay. Now, he said before, and I should have mentioned this before, he said that after they do Yud Beis V'Dikas, okay, they will check it through the light. I would like to say that perhaps, and this is the way I do it, and it's up to everybody to figure out whether I'm correct or not, or from Stam being I will look at a half before. If somebody brings me a half, I'll look at it. First, I will look for it in the light, and then I will check it with my nail. Two reasons. Number one, if somebody shows me a chalaf and I see that there's this spice on it, I can give it back to them and say, here, you got a problem over here. And I want you to see that problem. I want you to look at the problem. And I'm befragt to talk about Talmidim, learn from that. Learn to see what I'm talking about over here. You have a vice guide. That's number one. Number two, I'm going to pay more attention to that spot if I check it with my nail then, because since I see something, I'm going to really pay attention a little bit more over there. Nevertheless, therefore, my opinion is that looking at it before you do the bdikas is the way I do it. Maybe it's wrong, but that's the way I do it. Maybe I and the Matiyosha have a different approach. Okay, and he says that you should do it. Okay, these things are, again, these are things I think everybody has to figure out what works best for himself. These are conditional things that he's bringing down over here. If you do it outside, it's not so good. All in the house, can I get a haloin, opposite the window, she'ain pesach, back can I get a schuchis, it should be open up next to a glass, if he has a double pane, it comes out even better. Okay, I don't know. I don't know. I've done indoors, I've done outdoors. I find that a fluorescent light actually does not work so well. The incandescent bulbs are going out and they're becoming dinosaurs that work better. If you do it with a black background against opposite behind the chalf, I find that it works better. So I found that going outdoors in the sun does work for me. So you have to figure out what works for you, and that's the way to do it. And then he goes on and says just the opposite, that even though sometimes there are things that you will not feel, there are sometimes things that you will not feel but you see in the light, and sometimes it goes the opposite way, which is my experience comes out the same way, that even though you do not see it, nevertheless there is a beginning there that you can feel. So therefore it's important to know how to feel. Check a half al bisra al tufa, meaning al tufa with your nail, and that's also a skill that you have to learn. And also you have to know the concept of looking at a half, checking a half b'reiyah. Now I'd like to get into a little bit more of the practical aspect, hands-on aspect of stelling a half. Okay, so before we get into the practical aspect, which we're going to do right now on stelling a half, I want to look on page 22 of the Simul Hadasha booklet printed by Laman Yomadu, where it has in the footnote, Piskir Rabbeinu Nisiyenu, and it says like this: Admur Harayatz, the Frierdiker Rebbe, Pir B'michte writes in a letter, as Oifin HaModes HaSakin HaRotzli, the desirable way for which to shtel a chalef is Aleph, two conditions. Aleph, Shnei Tzdodim Mishkol Shaveh, both of them of the angles of the tzad of the chalef should be equal. Not one with a high angle, one with a low angle, and I'll explain that. You should cut up the chalef, section it up into a few sections. The whole organ, and that you should do the whole thing in one motion. Okay, so there's what's called stelling chalef at tzad echad and shnei tzadim. So what does that mean? It means that I can shell this side and this side, okay, meaning go equally like this equally like that, up and back and up and back. So therefore, I'll have an angle here and I'll have an angle here. Or I could just stay on one side the whole time, and then the angle will not be like this, but it'll be like that. Okay, and just occasionally do on the back side. So that's called Shtel Half Tzad Echad. A lot of people do it. Makes a beautiful half. Works well. For some reason, this is the way the Friedrich Rebbe writes. You should do Shnei Tzaddim. So most of the guys that I work with, that I know, do Shnei Tzaddim. Number two, there's a method of either taking the half and doing it section-wise, this part, and this part, or it can go up and back and up and back. And that's what the second thing the Friedrich Rebbe says is it should be cut up into sections. So the way I teach how to shtel a chalaf, and let me say something before we go any further. There's no such thing as Posner said. Posner said that's the right way. No such thing. This is not Teis Meshach Sinai. This is all just to reach a final goal, which is a chalaf, which is chad v'cholak. However you manage to do that is acceptable. Okay, we are going to follow certain regulations. As long as you learn with me, please stick with them. Okay, afterwards you can figure out what works with you, and whatever works is fine. But I think that if you follow the guidelines that I give you over here, you'll end up with a good chalaf, and therefore try as hard as you can to follow the guidelines that I give you. And then if there are certain minor differences or minor adjustments that you like to make later on, that's fine. Okay, so point number one, this is the stone. Now you see the stone is rubbed out over here. That's because this is a stone which is used, because this is made of a very low grit, meaning it's a 250, which means it's made out of a very rough grit, means it's made out of a lot of large pieces. So as you use it, it wears out much faster. This stone, the 250, most likely will be used only on this project that I'm giving you here now, or you drop a chalaf on the floor and you take out a chunk of metal from the chalaf, you might have to use this again. Otherwise, it's not really used so much. What you will use more is the 1000. The 1000 will be used, again, if you get a big pigima, not too big, or when you get a new chalaf, I would say you should go on the 250 to create that tzad, as we talked about. It has to have your angle on it, your fingerprint. You will do that with the 1000. Why? Because the chalaf comes very, very thin to begin with. It actually comes with its tzad, it comes with it's probably sharp before you even start, but it doesn't have your tzad on it. Therefore, you'll create your tzad with the 1000. Then you'll go to a 6000, etc. So, this stone must be used with water, meaning you have to take this stone and put it in water for a couple of minutes to absorb the water. It's very porous and has to be absorbed. The water has to be absorbed in it. After that, once you start working on it, the water goes off it very quickly. So you have to either have a shissel, a bucket or some sort, where you can dip the knife in and sprinkle it from time to time. Or you could work with a faucet, which is a salt trickler. You can put the stone underneath. You don't need a much water because you're not looking to clean the stone off. You're looking to keep it wet. I think an idea that's definitely worth trying is by, after you get it nice and soaked up with water, put some soap on it. Dish soap, bar soap, rub on it. Soap, because soap does not evaporate the same way water does. I've tried that. I think that works pretty good. Put a little bit of soap on there and experiment, maybe a little bit more soap. And you want to keep that blood, that mud, that slurry that builds up on it, you want it to stay there. So you take the stone and you got to have it firm in your hand. I am sitting down. I recommend highly, the reason why I'm doing it, because it comes out better in the video. I can't seem to get it when I'm standing. You got to work standing. Do it while you're standing for a couple of reasons. Number one, it just seems to work better. You can't really work so well while you're sitting when you have to do a lot of work. A little touch-up is fine. Number two, when you're going to be actively working, okay? If ever you are a sheikhet, you're going to be standing. You're not going to be sitting, okay? So therefore, you should do this while you're standing. Okay, so you got to have this and you're going to support this. Therefore, you're not going to also do this anything on the table and working with it while it's on the table. You're not going to do that. Again, for the same practical reason that you have to be able to do it wherever you are, wherever you're doing. If you don't have your table, you don't have your angles, you don't have your things, you got to be able to do it by holding in your hand. So you got to have it supported very well. So therefore, you get your fingers underneath it, get your thumb, the base of the thumb, get your thumb on top. It's also important to keep in mind, you want to keep your fingers out of the way. You don't want to cut your fingers. So if possible, keep these fingers down. Okay, it doesn't always work for everybody. And you also know, it doesn't always work for me even, I also know that people have different sized hands and different comfort. By me, as you see, it's almost like a straight line all the way through. Okay, I'm holding it like this. It's a straight line practicing all the way through. I see a lot of guys are holding it like this. Okay, I don't know why. I'm not a doctor, so I don't know how the body works necessarily, but I have it like this, and this is where I'm usually holding it. I'm working like this. So that's a goal that you should try to get. I think it's probably better to do it that way because you have the good support and you have the base of the thumb holding it firm. Next, I take the knife. Now, right now I'm working here, this side over here, my thumb is over here, I'm touching is the actual edge, which is there when we bought the knife, the first one. And this is how we're going to get comfortable with the motions before we want to look for any results in the knife. You are learning things here now that you've never really done, and I'm going to give you like seven conditions that you have to keep in mind while you are doing this. Okay, so the first one already is how to hold the stone. Number 2, how to hold the knife. Okay, if you see, my thumb is on top over here. My thumb is on top, not on the blade. Okay, when you get to a gas's half, you might put your thumb on the blade. Maybe with an oifus half, put it on the handle. Okay, my fingers are a few inches away from the stone. Thumb on top. Okay, when I go forwards, okay, and this I'm calling the forward motion, starting by my thumb, I'm working away, moving forward. My thumb is on top. When I want to go back, the backhand I'm calling it, my thumb goes in back. My thumb is in back now, and I'm going back. Okay, so this I'm calling forehand because I'm moving forward away from the thumb, and this way I'm calling backward. I'm coming back to the thumb. Okay, now remember, in each motion I'm going both directions, but I'm saying the primary motion. The primary motion is going to be the first one. First one, primary forehand, like this, thumb on top, thumb on top, thumb on top. This one, thumb in the back, thumb in the back, thumb in the back, thumb in the back, okay? So that we have now so far 2 things, how to hold the stone, how to hold the knife. Number 3, as we are moving along, and the most important thing I'm going to leave for the end, but as we move along, we start off with the knife. We are going to put, let's get this proper over here, top of the knife. This part, top over here, top of the knife at the bottom of the stone. Okay? Bottom of the stone, not here. This is the top of the stone. This is the bottom of the stone. So we want the top of the knife at the bottom, not here, but here. Okay, so that we can go across at an angle. So when I end up, now I'm working finished here at the first section with the top of the knife at the top of the stone. So I'm working at an angle. I'm not going straight across. I'm going at an angle. Why am I doing that? So that each section will overlap. So we have a uniform, we have a unity, a continuity between each section and section. So top of the knife, bottom of the stone, and we move all the way across. We use the whole stone. We're not going like this, but we're going all the way across. Use the whole stone. Okay, so therefore, we did, okay, use the whole stone, all the way across. That's number 3 is top of the knife, bottom of the stone. Number 4 is use the whole stone. Number 5, as you can see, as I'm holding the knife to the stone, it is perpendicular. It creates right over here, you see, a nice square. Not like this, not like this, okay? Your goal is keep it square all along square. okay? And the chalf must stay flush to the stone. Flush, completely flush. Not like this. Careful not to lift it up, okay? You're not working on the corner of the stone. No cornering. Flush the whole time, okay? And now I think we are going to the number 7 condition over here, and this is the most important one. There's no way in the world I can overemphasize how important this is, and that is from beginning to the end, whether it's the top, middle, bottom, you must keep the same angle, okay? What is that angle, you're going to ask me? And I'll tell you that it is about 1/4 of the way up. What do I mean by that? This we say here is a 90-degree angle. This is straight up. This is about halfway. We got to go another halfway, and that is the angle that most likely is the best, so that you should have sharp enough, nevertheless smooth enough. Meaning, if you go too low an angle, you'll end up with a corner like this, and it'll become very, very thin. Then it's not going to have strength. There's no support for the edge, and it's very likely to get a pegima, or it'll be sharp. So let's make it like this. Yeah, you'll have the support, and you'll have the point in the cutting edge, but it's going to be dull. It's not going to cut. So you have to have a happy medium, which is like 25%, okay? Or 22.5% if you want to be perfectly, nudgy about it. The forehand, which is this way, and the backhand, which is this way, will not be exactly the same. Don't let that bother you. Simply because of the logistics of your hand, the makeup of the body will not be like that. So now I'm going to show you exactly how to do a whole round of Sharpening the chalf, okay? So we are working slowly now. We are working very slowly because we want to keep in mind all these 7 things that I just said. And I'm going to go through them again before I actually do it. Number 1, have the chalf based properly in your hand, supported properly. Have the thumb on top when you're going forward, and in the back when you're going backward. Make sure you have it perpendicular to the knife. Make sure to the stone, the knife, the stone are perpendicular. Number 4, keep it flush. Number 5, start at the top of the knife and the bottom of the stone. Number 6, go at an angle. Number 7, use the whole stone. And now here I just created number 8, which is make sure you keep the angle, keep that angle, keep that angle, keep that angle. Like I said before, somebody wakes you up in the middle of the night, puts a stone in one hand and a knife in the other hand, it's going to hit the knife. The knife's going to hit the stone at that same angle because it's going to be so trained in your hands that it's going to be automatic. Now, there's a possibility that after you go through the whole thing and you still how you find out, hey, I was too low, I was too high, you're going to have to retrain and redo it again. It might take time till you get the exact one. Hopefully, though, you won't, because that can be a real, pain in the you-know-what. Okay, so let's do it now. Thumb on top, stone based and supported by my hand, straight hand, thumb is supporting and holding it, fingers underneath, okay. And I take the stone, top of this knife, bottom of the stone, and I go across till top of the knife, top of the stone. Then I come back. 1, 2, 3. Now I go into the next section. 1, 2, 3. Next section. 1, 2, 3. Now with this knife, it's very difficult to get to the bottom because the handle's in the way. Okay, so you're going to give you some leeway when it comes to the last inch over here, the last inch. But by chalf, you won't have that issue. First of all, you got to get the whole blade completely chad v'cholek, number 1. Number 2, the handle is much different. The blade sticks out much more, so you shouldn't have that issue. And you could actually get the blade over, the handle over the knife a little bit, so you should get the whole blade. So let's do it one more time. Top of the knife, bottom of the stone. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. Now I'm going to turn it over. And this is where I see guys when they start out to get quite confused. Put your thumb on the back. Start at the other side of the stone, but top of the knife, bottom of the stone. I work back now. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. Okay? Again. You gotta keep that angle. That angle that you have. You're not working like this. If you work like this, again, I'm exaggerating that. I know you will not work that way, but even the minutest amount of change is going to affect the quality of the challah. Okay? It's just practice. And that's why we have this special project, which is taking this knife, and after you get comfortable with the motions, turn it over, and now you're going to work on this side. This side is very thick, I guess about 1/16 of an inch thick, and you're going to create this side an edge, a cutting edge. And why are you going to do that? Okay, so number one, the reason is because I want you to be able to develop those muscles that you need to create a challah. Number two, you're going to see exactly your progress. You'll be able to look now, oh, I see not suddenly, it take a while, I see I'm creating a tzad. I see an angle, a bevel is coming up over here, which wasn't there before. I see it on both sides, and I could see it. Because over here on this side, it's almost impossible to see because it's as thin as a thread. You don't know what you're looking for. On this side, you'll see it. It'll be created. It'll also give you a goal to work for. Okay? If I'm going to tell you work on this, you're not going to, how long? A minute, a week, a month? You don't know what you're doing. Here you know, I have to go until I create over here on this side that this should all be a point. And you can look and see the progress, and you can look and see the top. It's getting narrower. The top over here gets narrower and narrower and narrower until suddenly, hey, I don't see it anymore. Okay, as I explained in the first part when the Simcha Hadasha and the Matayosha brings down about checking in the light, that when you create a point over here, the cutting edge point, the cutting edge, it should be so thin and so perfect that when you hold it up in the light, until now I see it, and as I turn, hey, I don't see anything anymore. That's because it's become so narrow and so perfect that the point does not exist anymore to your eyesight, and therefore there's no light catch and go to it. You won't see anything. And there you can see your progress. If you see, okay, you want to keep this edge over here, okay, to be perfectly straight. If I go back to my picture over here, you'll see what I mean when I say the edge. Just give me a moment here, okay? This edge, you can't see it. This edge over here, as it moves along the whole knife, should be perfectly straight, okay? So from here, which is the point, to here, which is the end of the tzad, okay, all along this end of the tzad, as it comes into the knife, should be perfectly straight. Now you're going to be working, and you're going to see, whoa, this side, I'm going to see it comes down and up a little bit. Or if you see it's narrower here than it is over here, for example, say, wait, it means I'm putting too much pressure here, not enough here. I got to refocus and make sure that it comes out even. I got to make sure that it doesn't go up and down to this side over here. What causes it to go up and down? Either one of two things. You're putting too much focus, too much pressure on a certain part, so you have to refocus it, or you're not keeping it straight. You're changing your angle. Okay? So therefore, because this is so thick and such, you have room to readjust. You have room to change the balance. You have room to do tshuva. And you can come back, swing back the pendulum to try to correct that. Okay? And you constantly monitor all along over here, if it is coming thinner and thinner and thinner, coming to your point at an equal pace along the whole thing. If you see here, it's close to a point already, but over here it's not. It means, hey, refocus over here a little bit more. But you're going to be able to, at this point, you have enough points, enough definition, enough things to look for to know your own progress. You'll be able to judge your progress by looking at how it gets closer over here, and by looking over here on the side, how it's developing and how it's going smooth. Okay, so quickly, once again, well, my notes, sorry, okay. What you're going to be doing, I'll redo it again, and you are learning now also the skill of looking at a chalif, okay, including how to create a chalif. So, thumb on top, stone supporting the base of your hand, with the thumb holding it, top of the chalif, bottom of the stone. 1, 2, 3, moving to the next section. 1, 2, 3, and the third section. 1, 2, 3. I'm working quickly, I'm sorry. Work slowly. Why? You have to keep all those things in mind. Work slowly. I mean, slow it down. We're going to do now the backhand. Again, I find this is one of the things that confuses guys. They start off like this, working like that on the backhand. No. When you turn over the chalif, the other angle, again, start here and pull. 1, pull, 2, pull, 3. Next section, 1, pull, 3, and the last section, 1, 2, 3. Okay? The whole time keeping in mind that you must focus that, and that's why you work slowly, and you work with this side and this stone when you start. You're not trying to affect anything on the knife until you are comfortable with your motions. Okay? That's the key word right now, comfortable with your motions. Then you're going to use this side, and you want to get results. Okay? Make sure that, especially when you're really trying to make progress, you're in the second stage, you're comfortable, this has to be absorbed with water completely, soak it up completely with water, work in a sink where it doesn't matter if you get dirty. You might want to change your shirt because it's going to create a mess and a blotter. And you have to have a constant water supply. Also, you can use that little bit of soap, like I said before. Put a little bit of soap on it because soap does not absorb, does not evaporate the same way, and you get to work. So, right now, that's all I could think of about all of the details of a chalif. And once again, I will emphasize, keep your angle, keep your angle, keep your angle. The most important part of it all is that the angle that you choose, that 22.5 degrees, should be constant throughout the stelling of the chalif, throughout moving the stone over the knife over the stone.